Welcome to the Fit Woman Formula podcast, where we show women just like you how to reclaim your energy, rebuild your body, and step into you 2.0. I'm Coach Jonathan, founder and head coach of the Fit Woman Formula coaching program. This show is for women who are tired of starting over and ready to finally create results that last. Not just weight loss, but real confidence, a healthier relationship with food, a stronger mindset, and a lifestyle that finally lasts. You can watch full episodes on YouTube or listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you enjoy podcasts. And if you're ready to learn more about how we can help you unlock the energy and confidence of your 20s while dropping 2+ sizes in the next 12 weeks, visit fitwomanformula.com. All right, let's get into today's episode. Are your hormones actually the reason that your body isn't changing? Really interesting timing on this, by the way. So let me just share something that happened today. We had someone that reached out to one of our ads. I think it was on Instagram, looking for help. I started talking with this lady, and pretty early on in the conversation, she just said, "You're not a woman. What would you know about my hormones or about what I'm going through?" And honestly, I get that. That is a fair thought. I haven't experienced what you're experiencing firsthand, right? I'm not a woman, so how could I? So I want to be really clear about something. I'm not here to dismiss in this episode and what we're going to talk about what it is you're feeling. I'm not here to tell you that what you're experiencing is not real. What I am here to do is to help you understand what's actually going on and what isn't, and what's actually going to help you move forward. I think that's the most important thing here, is that we focus in on the solution, because this comes from over a decade of working almost exclusively with women who feel stuck, women who feel like their body isn't responding, women who think that their hormones must be the reason, this must be the problem. And yes, I stay up to date with research, and I've got a ton of certifications specifically in women's health and women's hormone health. A huge part of this, though, is from real world experience, seeing what actually works, seeing what doesn't, seeing what helps women lose weight and tone up and transform their body, and what just keeps them stuck. And I'll say this too, this line of thinking you're not a woman, what would you know? Well, I do understand it, but I'm going to be honest. I also think that that's the type of thinking that can keep you stuck, because if you limit what you're open to learning, you limit your ability to move forward. So this conversation is not about dismissing anything. It is about making sense of it. That's what I want to help you with here today. Now, let's talk about why this even comes up, because this doesn't come out of nowhere, right? A lot of women hit a point where things feel different. Energy is lower. Fat sits differently on your body, right? You go look in the mirror one day and it's like, man, what the hell's going on? The scale doesn't move the same. Cravings feel stronger. And it just feels like your body isn't responding. And this is really interesting, because when someone reaches out to us, one of the questions we ask is, what do you feel is standing in the way right now? 9 times out of 10, they say, I think it's my age. I think it's my hormones. I feel like my body just isn't responding anymore. These are their words. And again, this might be kind of what you're thinking or what you're saying to yourself, or maybe even what you've shared with me in a conversation at some point. And what's really interesting about this is it doesn't matter if they're 35, 45, 55, 65, you're all saying the same thing. That tells you something, because it's not like everything just stops working when you hit one exact age. What's happening is they're hearing the same message over and over again. This is the same message that you're hearing, that once you hit a certain point, the hormones take over, the metabolism slows down, your body becomes harder to change. And look, after hearing that enough, and after having failed at a lot of attempts, it starts to feel like that must be the reason. Now, I want to dial in on one hormone in particular for a moment here. Let's talk about cortisol, because this one is completely misunderstood. You hear a lot of stuff these days: cortisol face, cortisol belly, all these different things, right? It gets treated like the enemy, like it's the reason that your body won't lose weight or can't lose weight. But here's what you need to understand, ladies. Cortisol is not bad. I hate to say it. I feel pretty confident that this is the first time that many of you are hearing this, okay? And that's unfortunate, because look, you actually need cortisol. It helps regulate your energy. It helps you wake up. It helps your body respond to stress. The issue is not cortisol itself. The issue is when your body is under stress for long periods of time. So let's think about what that looks like. Not sleeping enough, running on caffeine, under eating, trying to be perfect, pushing through workouts that are maybe too high intensity while you're exhausted, too many workouts, too frequently, too long, too much cardio, too much high intensity, trying to push through all that. That's a lot of stress. So yes, cortisol can stay elevated, but that doesn't mean your body is broken. It usually means your body is under recover. And when that happens, you feel more tired. Your cravings go up. Decision making gets worse. And now it feels like a hormone problem when it's really an energy and recovery problem. Let's talk about what this problem usually isn't. This is where we need to get honest, because a lot of what feels like a hormone issue, again, is low energy, is inconsistent eating, not enough protein, high stress, no structure. So what happens when you combine all these? Well, you're fatigued. You got cravings that are going on like crazy. You've got these wild weight fluctuations, or sometimes no fluctuation at all. Sometimes you just hit this wall and it's like, no matter what I do, I'm within a pound for what feels like forever. It feels hormonal, but the root of this is much more practical. This is not just some guy's opinion. This is someone that has been working in the trenches with ladies just like you who are struggling with all of this, and we're helping them get out of it. So let me walk you through kind of the real life pattern here. This is something that I see all the time. Let's think about this. This might be your day. Wake up tired, coffee first, skip breakfast, lunch is light or rushed or skipped altogether, just like breakfast. Afternoon hits, now you're starving, then the cravings hit, dinner gets bigger, snacking comes after dinner, and maybe more snacking after that snacking, okay? And then the next morning, what's going on? Well, you're feeling puffy and the scale's up. And so now the conclusion is what? Again, my hormones must be the problem. But let's look at what actually happened here. It's a crappy sleep routine, not fueling your body properly, high stress. How are you dealing with that stress? Are you dealing with that stress? Okay, no. So there's high stress, which leads to reactive eating and reactive decision making. This is all a very different story. Now, this often lands a lot of women in kind of the quick fix trap. This is where things like low carb comes in. You cut carbs, the scale drops fast. It feels like something was fixed. In reality, most of it is water, right? It's not fat. And now you're stuck in a plan that doesn't fit your life. But what actually works? Well, if your goal is to lose weight, to tone up, and to transform your body, what actually works is eating enough. Not less, eating enough, eating the right amount, okay? Fueling your body, eating enough protein, strength training, a realistic food structure that has flexibility, daily movement, sleep, good energy, making that the priority, planning ahead. Okay, again, not extremes, just consistency. So there are times to look deeper. And if you're, again, having this conversation, it's my hormones. Again, I'm not being dismissive of that. Hormones are a real thing, but there are times where we need to look deeper. And this might be one of those moments for you. So if there are major changes in your cycle, in your energy, in your mood, big mood swings, that's worth getting checked. That is worth getting checked. That's a conversation for your doctor. I mentioned that so many ladies, when they reach out, they immediately say my hormones are the problem. And one of the things that I think it's so important to ask is, hey, is this something that's been diagnosed? What we hear all the time, honestly, is no, it hasn't been diagnosed. In fact, I went to the doctor and they checked everything out and everything's just fine. Well, look, this is something, when you're approaching the perimenopause years, I think it's so important that you go get all of your hormone levels and your thyroid and all of these things checked. You got to be doing that, okay? But you also need to listen to the feedback that you're getting, because when they're running the test and they're saying, no, it's not your hormones, you need to listen to that. So instead of asking, are my hormones the problem? We need to have you asking, what's making this harder right now? That's what leads to solutions. Because look, when the right things are in the right place, like your calorie intake, for instance, you need to understand that regardless of what's going on with your hormones, a calorie deficit is going to override that. Something you can't escape. If your problem has been overeating and you then go into a calorie deficit, you're going to lose body fat. Now, if you have some hormonal issues, might the timeline be different? For sure. Might progress look different? Like ladies with PCOS, for instance. A lot of the times, you're not going to see big changes on the scale initially. We've got ladies we've worked with for a while that there haven't been massive changes on the scale, but they're dropping inches and they're dropping sizes and they see it in the mirror. And that's part of the process with things like this. We've got ladies that have thyroid issues like Graves' disease, like Hashimoto's, underactive thyroid, okay? All these different issues going on. How do we get them moving in the right direction? Well, we get things dialed in. Again, from a more practical standpoint, this isn't a magic pill. And although it impacts your hormones, we're not saying, hey, come work with us because we're going to fix your hormones. We've got some magic bullet for that. Now, what we actually use is what's called the metabolic momentum method. And a big part of this is getting your energy in check. And the way that we do that and getting you back to a place to where you're feeling good, you're feeling like yourself, or even better than you remember feeling in a while, is with some practical stuff. common sense stuff. A lot of it is very basic habits. So things like calorie intake matter. Things like movement matter. One way to kind of think about this is let's say that you're in the grips of perimenopause right now and things do feel different. Like it's confirmed. You're in perimenopause. This isn't a thought or anything like that. It's actually happening. So what's going on if you're struggling with losing weight? Is it directly the hormones? No. A lot of the times it's indirectly the hormones. Again, why? Well, because cravings are a little bit higher. Movement changes, decisions change. A lot of the times when you zoom out, what we're kind of able to share with ladies and get them to see is from an outsider's perspective is that what's changed at the same time as some of these things going on with your hormones and these things that naturally happen to women is you're in a new season of life. You've got kids now, or your kids are older, or maybe your job looks different, right? There are these other things that are moving around that you have to take into consideration with all of this. So I'm just going to say it like this as we kind of start to wrap things up. Even if you have a hormone issue going on, that doesn't mean that you need some complicated process to fix all of this. And I know it sounds so different from what you're hearing out there. And it's the reason that, a lot of what I say just isn't going to go viral or anything like that. It's because fear is what sells. Common sense doesn't really sell. Fear is what sells. And so when someone is saying, it's your cortisol, it's your hormones, if you don't fix this thing in this special way that I've designed, I've figured it out, then you're not going to be able to solve it and you're stuck. And by the way, you need to take this pill that you have to buy along with that, right? That's usually what follows all that. Most of the time, these can be fixed in very, very simple ways with a very simple process. Our process is called the metabolic momentum method, okay? That's what we're using. And let's just say even that you do have some hormonal issues going on. Again, we work with ladies with PCOS. We're working with ladies with all kinds of thyroid issues. We're working with ladies that have a lot of health issues, that have autoimmune disorders going on, that are handicapped, immobile, completely, can't do anything, sitting in a wheelchair, in their 60s, in their 70s, like all these things working against them. And you would say, yeah, there's no way they're going to make progress because that's probably where your head is at right now. But that's just not true. And I really want to get through to the ladies that are feeling stuck and feeling like there's not an answer to this. Or again, like the answer has to be very complicated. That's just not true. And it is very likely that if you're thinking right now that your hormones are directly what's holding you back, that is very likely not true either. This isn't a guess. It's based on what we see every single day, the hundreds and hundreds of women that we've worked with, many of whom thought that they had some hormone issue. And it turned out that wasn't the case at all. They needed to look at their habits. When you get things in place, your body starts responding again. You stop thinking something is wrong with you. It stops feeling like something is wrong with you because you realize, wait, there's nothing wrong with me. And even if there is, even if something's been diagnosed, there is an answer to this. That's really, really important for you to know. And that wraps up today's episode of the Fit Woman Formula podcast. I hope today's conversation helped you take one more step toward reclaiming your energy, rebuilding your body, and stepping into you 2.0. If you found this helpful, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future episodes. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I'd really appreciate it if you left a quick rating or review. It helps more women discover the show. Ready to unlock the energy and confidence of your 20s while dropping 2+ sizes in the next 12 weeks without restrictive diets, useless supplements, or living in the gym? Visit fitwomanformula.com to learn how we've helped hundreds of women just like you. I'll see you in the next episode.